And so here we are at our public meeting 3 for the I-229 major investment study. And so this is kind of the culmination of our study as we kind of get the documents wrapped up and ready for use by the different agency partners. The format's going to be pretty simple tonight. We're going to really go through the options relatively quickly, indicating what's going to be carried forward onto the next phases of the studies. And so at public meeting 1, which is a while back now, we indicated that we're trying to build a plan that's really going to be maybe 20 years to 30 years worth of work. And so that's really what we have. We have options for improvements along I-229 and at various interchanges and crossroads up and down this corridor. So hope you're excited to see some of them. Just a few housekeeping things as we get going. The internet site, I229study.com. By the end of the day tomorrow, we'll have it updated with the information we have here at the meeting. So if you have somebody that couldn't make it and they have a question, by Thursday morning, they'll be able to print off or look at anything that we show tonight. And so certainly let them know that. And that's really the site if you want to go back in time through our study. Tonight we're really going to focus on the options that will be carried forward. If you do want to go back, the site has all of the options that we've looked at on the corridors. And so if that's of interest to you, certainly go back and do that. My name is Jason Chenson. I'm with HDR Engineering, one of the consultants on board. We have a variety of folks here from the City of Sioux Falls, the South Dakota DOT. And so please, as we get done with the presentation, go around, ask questions at the boards, get anything that you want answered to the best that we can. One of the hardest things that you'll come away with tonight is when we do a planning study of this magnitude, it's going to be hard for us to pinpoint exact times when these improvements will take place. And so understand that and kind of bear with us. We'll try to give you a tiered strategy of when we think things will be done, but definite timelines we just don't know. And so I'll go ahead and kind of get started. I'm going to give just a little bit of an overview along the corridor, maybe for those of you that seen the message boards on the interstate, and if this is your first meeting. This was a very comprehensive study. And so if we look at the overall corridor, the study really begins down here at Solberg Avenue and commences up here at 60th Street North by I-90. And so really initially when we started the study, we were going to look at corridor specific. We were going to look at adjacent intersections along to all the interchanges, maybe 1 or 2 down the road, and see how things were working. But we already knew from previous studies and levels of congestion that at Minnesota Avenue, 10th Street, and Benson Road, we were going to do larger scale corridor studies. And so as we've gone through this entire process, we found out that we had a couple other locations that potentially needed some improvements as well. And so about a year ago, we kind of stopped what we were doing and we added the Cliff Avenue corridor and the Rice Street corridor in. And so we did some additional evaluation on those crossroads as well. And so we'll share that information with you tonight. This corridor has served us well for many years, and so when the DOT and the city and the agency folks set forth to do this study, what they really wanted to identify is how do we keep the same capacity on the corridor over the next 30 years, the next 50 years. And also, we have some areas that we've had some safety issues along the corridor, so how can we address those moving forward? These are the agency partners that were involved, the South Dakota DOT, Federal Highway Administration, the City of Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls MPO, and I just wanted to highlight the South Dakota Highway Patrol because of some of those instances where they have to deal with crashes and try to communicate with others along the corridor, which is very difficult if you drive it every day. They really wanted to bring that to the table and say, what can we do to make sure if something happens along the corridor, how can we communicate that to people that are driving up and down the roadway so we don't have those secondary crashes or even further crashes that take place. So we're happy to have them as a study partner as well. The presentation agenda is very simple. I'm going to quickly run through starting on the I-229 specific upgrades. I'm going to go through the sub-studies and we're going to look at the improvements that we're going to carry forward. I'll spend a little bit of time on each individual matrice, but not a whole lot of time. Those are in the back of the room. I can really get bogged down and you can, any of those that you have questions on, we can get to the boards after the meeting and talk more about that. The other thing that we have underneath all of the interchange options for any of the sub-studies, we've done some detailed renderings. And so you can kind of get a real world view of what it would look like on an aerial background. I think they're very helpful for you to kind of see what, if that solution would be implemented, really what it would look like. So we're going to start along the I-229 corridor, and thankfully back in 2000 range, right before 2001, the DOT did the improvements along this corridor where they added auxiliary lanes between many of the interchanges. And prior to that, they did a 229 study that looked at what we needed to have. And basically the study indicated that we needed an auxiliary lane with 2 through lanes for a majority of the corridor, with the exception of we had a lot of bridges in this location between 26th Street and 10th Street that were so new, they made that an exception area. And with this study, that was really along the corridor itself, that was really the area that we focused on, that we know that we need to do some lane additions. And so between 26th Street and 10th Street, right now we just have 2 lanes. We're at that point now that we really need to look at adding that additional lane, so we have a 3-lane section between those. And so the other thing is between the bridges and we have an overpass that exists at 18th Street. The design curve that was in there was about 55 miles an hour, and that's something that the corridor is signed for 65. So if you drive it every day like I do, you go through there and you have advisory signs to slow down. And so we have a couple different options. If you look between kind of the little box right here, you'll see it kind of flip back and forth. And so we've done some design to look at making that a 65 mile an hour curve. We got to put up some retaining walls to do that, but it would make the corridor consistent all the way through, which we think would be beneficial. When we look at some of the safety problems that we've had, it kind of has been in this area primarily in inclement weather times where we've had slippery conditions. The South Dakota DOT did do some surface friction treatment just a couple years ago that actually has worked pretty well. And so we're happy to see that and be able to integrate that on future projects. But out of all of the corridor, you know, that study that they did in the late 90s really held pretty true. And so this is kind of the identified mainline improvements that we need on the corridor. You know, as we do any project, one thing that we always want to try to accomplish is serving our multimodal folks better than maybe we have in the past. And so at all of the locations that we cross Interstate 229, we've looked at what improvements can we make in regards to either sidewalk connectivity or for our biking community. And so as we looked up and down the corridor, and each interchange was specifically looked at to see how conducive does this interchange, how does it work to get bikers across? You know, can they do it the same way as we get pedestrians across on a sidewalk? And so this is just kind of some ideas that we have, and it'll be fine-tuned as it goes into final design. But as we go up to 60th Street North, just a few years ago we finished the 60th Street North feasibility study, and we identified at that crossing in the future it'd have a shared use path off of that corridor that would be 10 foot wide. And the idea is then we would have on the north end of the city, we'd kind of have a corridor that had the ability for those that wanted to bike or walk on a lot wider path, and it would get folks all the way over to our new South Dakota 100 or Veterans Parkway corridor. And so as we go on these different crossings, so 60th Street North would be a location that bikers could use a shared use path. As we go to Benson Road, the way that interchange options are setting up, it's more conducive to keeping just sidewalks at that location. As we go down to Rice Street currently has dedicated bike lanes on the rural section, and those are something with the amenities of Great Bear and the trail systems. We want to make sure, and really the connectivity with Brandon, that we're going to keep the bike lanes on street as we go through the Rice Street corridor. As we go down to 10th Street, at our previous public meetings and also at our landowner meetings, there was a lot of concern with the congestion and the type of interchanges that we're proposing there, that it may not be the best place for bikes to be. And so in that location, the idea is we have 6th Street that's a crossing, 12th Street and 18th Street that are maybe a little more conducive for bikers, but we will have certainly widened sidewalks and sidewalks on 10th Street going across the interchange. As we get down to 26th Street, if any of you folks were involved with that over the last few years, we completed the interchange report and the environmental document, and now we're in final design on that interchange. And we will allow for a path that will cross 26th Street that will allow access directly to the trail system. And so that's going to be a nice amenity. When we get to Cliff, we're kind of at that location again where, based on the type of interchanges, it seems like sidewalks are going to work better. Now, as we get down by Tomar Park and Minnesota Avenue area, Yankton Trail Park, we're actually looking at maybe having a separated, maybe a trail that would go over the interstate away from the interchange. We got a lot of things happening at the interchange in all of our options, and so that's probably one location where we'd have a completely separated location for people to get to the trail system coming out of some of those residential neighborhoods. And so, if we keep going down the interstate all the way over to Solberg Avenue, Solberg has a widened shared use path on one side and sidewalk on the other. So it seems like as we go up and down the corridor, about every other interchange, we do a better job of providing some amenities for the bikers, but everyone will provide at least sidewalks for pedestrians to cross. So that's just a little bit of an overview, and if we do have any of the folks that use that, certainly comment on that and let us know what your thoughts are. The next thing, this kind of gets into the heart of the communication technology along the corridor. And as I indicated when I first started, one of the concerns with the Highway Patrol, and really all of us that deal with highway safety, was if we have something take place, how can we communicate that with the folks that are using the corridor? And certainly it can be difficult. I mean, if you have a cop that sees an accident, they're going to call dispatch, they're going to release an ambulance if they need to, they're going to let maybe city staff know or whoever, and it takes time for that chain of events to take place. And so one of our tasks for the consulting group was to look at what technologies are available to maybe do a better job of alerting folks on the corridor. So if we run through a few of the different things that we would like to see carried forward, adaptive signal technologies. And so any corridor in town, we haven't been to a public meeting yet where someone didn't ask us why we don't have the signals timed better. And so one thing that you're seeing over time is this idea that adaptive signals are going to be maybe the wave of the future, and so really what they are is more of an internal brain running the signal systems through cameras. So it's real-time cameras that are saying this is how we should set the timings for this type of corridor. And so the City of Sioux Falls just a few years ago deployed their first adaptive network on 26th Street, starting about by Yeager Road, and it goes all the way out past Rosa Park School. And so that was our very first one. They've got a lot of good data from that. The corridor has worked well. We've actually increased our traffic volumes because of it. And so a couple other locations, the city had a press conference this morning along with the DOT and indicated that 41st Street is going to go to adaptive. We've also identified a few other corridors, Western Avenue and 10th Street so far, that we believe would benefit from adaptive signal control. And so really what that's going to do is it's going to have some benefits during the peak hours, and it's going to have significant benefits on the non-peak hours because it's going to be more reactive to the traffic that's taking place. Right now when we do a timing plan, We simply are making estimates of the type and amount of traffic that's going through an area at a certain time. And so we set the signals to handle that traffic. This takes it to that one level further. In real time is looking through cameras saying this is how much traffic is leaving one intersection, the next intersection needs to prepare for it, and this is how it's going to do it. So that's pretty exciting for us. A lot of cities haven't deployed technology like that, and so Sioux Falls is, along with the DOT, is leading the way. The CCTV cameras, really what those are standard cameras that the city or the DOT can use to look up and down their corridor. They can detect levels of congestion if that's what you're looking at them for. They can simply do surveillance if you're trying to, let's say we have Jazz Fest going on, and so maybe they're going to watch the cameras and look at the congestion at the interchanges at Western and Minnesota, and they can adjust the signal timings if they see congestion. So up and down the corridor, we can have those cameras that provide us the ability to monitor the corridor. As we tie in dynamic message signs, if we have that technology to watch the corridor, we can simply deploy messages very quickly through our dynamic message signs. And so right now, the way it looks is about having a sign maybe every other interchange up and down the corridor. So certainly going to be a lot better if a crash takes place ahead of time or there's a level of congestion that you need to be worried about. You can certainly be aware before you hit that long line of traffic that's already stopped. The dynamic road warning signs, really what we looked at those for is going to be kind of in our 10th Street to 26th Street area. And again, those are going to be warning for inclement weather or those type of events. And finally, we have a significant amount of traffic detectors, and they can range in communication from just recording traffic data, or maybe we want to look at speed data. If speed gets down to a certain point, it can deploy a message on a board that indicates that there's some level of congestion. And so if you go to a lot of other cities, they may have some of this, what we call ITS technology. We believe this is a corridor that would get some good use out of this type of technology, and it's something we're recommending that gets deployed at some point. So now we're going to hop into what we have for options on the different sub-studies. And like I said, I'm going to go through the options. Anything I show you tonight is something that will be carried forward into the subsequent studies. And all of those we have in the back of the room. And after the meeting, simply you can start. We have sub-study 1, and it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way around. And so you can follow, look at the ones that you'd like to, and skip the ones that you don't. But we'll kind of run through. I'm going to go over this briefly. This was our evaluation matrices. So anytime we try to screen alternatives down from several to few, we develop some version of a matrices. And if you went to the first public meeting, we talked a lot about traffic delay. And one of the things that was unique about this study is we developed a dynamic traffic assignment model. And so we were able, through a simulation, to look at the entire corridor and the crossroads all as one model and look at delay associated with that. And so it was different than looking just solely at one intersection or one corridor at one time. And what that model would do is if you constrained a corridor and there was a level of congestion, traffic would choose to go to another corridor based on travel time. And so when we look at traffic operations, that's one component that we used in our matrices to try to see how well an option worked. And so as we ended the study, we started taking our options, building them into the model, and see how they reacted. And so if they reacted well, that was probably something that we carried forward. Levels of service, a lot of times you'll hear us talk about levels of service as A, B, or C. If they're one of those letter grades, that means the corridor is probably working fairly well. If it's D, E, or F, we probably have an issue. And so as we started looking at the Rice Street corridor and the Cliff Avenue corridor, when we started going in our traffic analysis, we started to see some of those items pop up, and that's why we added them in as sub-studies to better evaluate those corridors. And so we looked at all of the intersections and the interchanges specifically, and so our improvement options are going to be designed to at least level service C or better. And so that way we know we can manage through that year 2035 or beyond. And then we also did an interchange year of failure. So if we looked at an alternative, we wanted to say, okay, if we implemented this alternative, how long would it last? And so it kind of gave us a gauge. If we implemented improvements at one location, maybe it only lasts 20 years. If we implemented them at another location, maybe it's 30 years. And it gave us this idea of how we could maybe prioritize the improvements better. And so that was important as we looked in trying to figure out which interchange or which improvement would be done first. Safety, certainly when we do these projects, capacity, traffic operations, or safety are probably the main two things that we look for. In this study, primarily we did a couple different things. First thing is we did an inventory of the crashes that we had. We looked at when they took place, what type of trends we could gather from those crashes, and geometrically we tried to address those trends. The other thing that we did, and it's certainly new to studies that we performed in South Dakota, we did some predictive crash assessments, and so there's new software and methodology out there indicating that they've done enough study at certain types of interchanges to say, well, this will probably cause or reduce crashes at a location. And so we said, okay, if this interchange was implemented, it would have maybe less crashes than currently happen, or it's going to have less or more than another option. And so that was another comparative element that we've done. And when you start looking at crashes and equate them to cost, it can really be important in a selection. And so, maybe it's a $10 million more of an interchange, but over 20 years, if it reduces crashes by $20 million, it was probably good bang for your buck. And so those are some of the things that we considered. All of these went into why we carried some of the options forward. Environmentally, certainly in this stage we did environmental reviews. So how did we displace wetlands? How did we handle floodplains? Were we having environmental justice issues? All of those things we're going to look at. Threatened and endangered species. Up and down the corridor we have pretty much everything. And so we did some reviews. As they go into further studies, they'll be certainly looked at a higher level. Property impacts and construction costs, they kind of go hand in hand. Certainly how much something costs is going to gauge when we can construct it, and the property impacts as well. If we have an area that we have a lot of property impacts, it's going to be harder to construct because we got to work through those issues with those landowners. And so it may indicate, maybe it went to a tier 3 project because we just know it's going to take a long time to work through those issues. And so this is our general overview. These are on the bottom just for the sake, we have a bunch of numbers that get added together, and for the sake of trying to convey it in some manageable sense, we converted it to a poor, neutral, good, or very good way of showing it. And so on the traffic assessment, if it's good or very good, that means it's met our level of service criteria and our safety criteria. Neutral is indicating that it probably didn't change much from what's currently happening out there today. And poor, obviously, if we have that, we probably have very few that are carried forward that are poor, except for the no build. As we go into subsequent studies, the no build always gets carried forward because we got to use that as the baseline to justify the improvement. And so as we go through here, I'm going to go through the interchanges and talk about why we like them. I'm going to pull up the matrices, and I'm not going to spend much time on it. If you have questions, certainly go back to the boards and we'll address those. We're going to start at Minnesota Avenue, and so we're going to kind of work our way around the corridor. Minnesota is very challenging for us. Years back, the City of Sioux Falls, in conjunction with other agencies, did a 41st Street corridor study that identified having a connection between Western Avenue and Minnesota Avenue on 49th Street would be maybe a relief location for some of the traffic that we see on 41st Street. And so really what that means for us is how do we integrate that into an interchange plan at Minnesota? And so that's in cases has been challenging over here. And so we have a couple different options. None of these are preferred at this point, but they all meet our level of service criteria, and they meet our ability to handle traffic safely. And so really what this looks at doing, kind of similar to Cliff Avenue, right now folks would come and use this ramp to go southbound on I-229. Instead of taking a left at a location that we could not signalize, they would simply take a right and use a loop ramp to get on I-229 to go southbound. And so what we've done with this design with the two ramp configurations here is we don't have any left turning traffic that would take place. And so when we do that, we only need a signal on this south side of the interchange and at 49th Street. So it's one way to manage being able to leave 49th Street in and have a signalized intersection. The other thing that you're going to see on the corridor as I flip back and forth is you're going to see Minnesota get wider and narrower. And so if you focus on that, the interchange options are exactly the same, but if you drive on the corridor, right now we have a hard time pushing that level of traffic on 4 lanes. And so the decision that we're going to have to make moving forward is, can we get 6 lanes between the interchange and 41st Street to serve that traffic? As we go south, south up to 57th Street, we don't have the same level of traffic, and so, but we have a very narrow corridor here with the businesses, and so that's one thing we got to figure out. How can we make that fit? Because right now we just don't have the capacity to push the traffic through. And so again, you guys in here live here and drive through it, and you see the same things I do. It's just very difficult at that PM peak hour to get from downtown or you know, even from 33rd Street out to the interchange. It just is really slow. And so that's the challenge there. This would just go through and look at the different options and compare to one another. I will point out really on the bottom, we looked at a diverging diamond interchange option for Minnesota, and due to it not being able to have access at 49th Street, we have eliminated it. And so one of the challenges will be, as we regroup and pick these studies up years from now, as we go through and build each one, we'll have to go back and look at new traffic information and verify that these improvements or solutions that we came up with in this study still work. And so I wouldn't say that there's not a possibility of other solutions coming back in the future, but certainly with the traffic volumes that we used under this project, these work pretty well. And so the next group of options that we had for Minnesota was single point interchanges, and all of you are familiar with them, whether you know what they're called or not. I-29 and 12th Street, I-29 Madison Street, I-29 Benson Road, I-229 and 10th Street, they're all single point interchanges. And what that means is you have a common signal at one location and you don't have a signal on each side of the interchange. And so we have a couple variations of this option. One is, this is a conventional single point with tight right turn ramps or right turn lanes. The problem is, in this option here, we're so close to 49th Street that anyone that would come off of I-229 to go northbound would be restricted from taking a left onto 49th Street, because we don't have enough room for these people to merge over and get into the left turn lane. So we actually would have a divider there that would not allow them to do that. And so this is a similar option, just with a wider street. And then our caveat to that is, instead of having those folks turn in here, let's just peel the ramp farther away and line it up with 49th Street, similar to our loop ramp option that we had. And so if we do that, we're able to take the interstate traffic and they can either take a right, go through, or if they want to take a left, obviously they'd use the other ramp. And so there's a variety of options. Both of those allow us to have 49th Street as an intersection, as well as have an interchange that manages the traffic volumes that we have. Again, this is just the result matrices. And then we're going to keep going on to Cliff Avenue. And so Cliff Avenue, for the longest time, has had this interior ramp between the signal at 41st Street and the signal at the South Side Terminal. And so the real struggle with this was getting enough room for either the vehicles queuing to go northbound on 229 and those conflicting with the folks that wanted to take a left to get onto southbound I-229. And so really what this does is, it's similar to Minnesota, is instead of those folks taking a left here, we simply would put them on a loop ramp and take them around the outside. And we're getting rid of that congestion from taking place. And so if you drive this corridor a lot, this is primarily the congestion area. We have a high peak volume in the morning with the school traffic. Certainly that's kind of dissipated in mid-afternoon. The PM peak hour through here actually works better than in the morning. And so this is one option to manage that. As we widen Cliff Avenue to the north, we certainly have some residential property impacts, and so we're trying to look at solutions to minimize that. Another option that we looked at was a single point interchange at this location here. We do know that we have bridges along this corridor that probably in the next 10 to 20 years need to be replaced. So we're not only gonna say, well, we're only gonna do an option that doesn't have to replace the bridges. And so we looked at the single point interchange option with the realigned 41st Street to get the separation to make the signals work. This on the traffic side of things works very, very well. The problem is we have displaced homeowners, and that's something that we try not to have happen. And so we looked at kind of a combination of the options where it's very similar with the single point interchange and realigning this ramp again like Minnesota over to Cliff Avenue to the signalized location, and that does meet our safety and level of service criteria. So that in itself becomes a good option, and it shows the least impact to the homes along Cliff Avenue. Again, this is the comparative, and each one you are going to see the no build, because when we carry it on to the next studies, we got to make sure we compare it to that. And so on the traffic side of things, we're in pretty good shape as we look at these options. As you can see, the one option, we had poor when we had the dealings with all those acquisitions. 10th Street, this is going to be a variety of two different options. The first being the single point interchange option. And so right now we have a single point that exists, and it has single turn lanes in all directions and 2 lanes across the structure. What we're trying to do here is stay really in tune with the interchange, because it works pretty well at the to a certain level, but the traffic is getting to that point we need to take it to and add some capacity to it. And so first of all, on 10th Street, we'd look at going to 3 lanes in each direction in this vicinity. Actually, when we get outside of these areas, we can go back to 2, but that helps us manage the congestion between Cleveland and the interstate. The other thing that we would do is we would add dual turn lanes to all of the left turn movements at the interchange. And then for the high volume rights, which is the highest volume right here, we'd add a dual turn lane for the right turn. And so when we make those improvements, adding turn lanes to Cleveland and to the interchange, we can get that, what some people refer to as a bottleneck kind of fixed along the corridor. And if you drive this quite often, you really go pretty well until you get to here, you slow down, and then you get through there. And so making some improvements in this location would really do us some good. The bad thing or the upsetting thing is really that we have retail and commercial areas that we would have to purchase to make these improvements. And that in this area, everything is so tight, we don't really have an option that doesn't have that. The single point is less intrusive than the diverging diamond option. This is the diverging diamond. The geometrics that we need to cross traffic over as they come through the interchange. The benefits of a diverging diamond interchange is that the 2 signals that result on the crossroad at the interchange are only for traffic in the east-west direction, so there's no turning traffic at those signals, so we can maximize traffic only going east and west. And so when you introduce a left turn lane at an intersection, you have to provide time for that to take place. And so when we look at this interchange here, it does a very good job of moving traffic on 10th Street. The left turns now become free movement, so when this movement here is stopped, all of these left turns can enter the corridor at an uncontrolled location. And I think over the next 10 to 20 years, this will probably be the interchange, probably the leading interchange geometric design in so many communities, because they retrofit really easily to the old standard diamond interchanges. And so again, one other consideration that we had is when we start looking at this heavy right turn movement and heavy left turn movement, one thing that we would like to provide for is lane balance. And so right now, people get off, and every once in a while you see a sneaker kind of come in and use the inside of that lane up to 10th Street. And since these movements are generally comparable, putting a dual lane off ramp there would provide for that lane balance and provide a little higher level of safety along the corridor. We'd also look at extending this ramp due to the high volume of left turns coming off of it. Along the corridor, we evaluated it at a 4-lane, 5-lane, and a 6-lane. And so 5-lane is what's out there now, has the 2-way left turn lane. A 4-lane would be just this, it would be 2 lanes in each direction with the raised median. We looked at a 6-lane, it would be 3 lanes in each direction with the raised median. And what we found is for a majority of the corridor outside of this interchange, we can manage the volumes pretty good with the 4-lane section. And so you'll probably see the 5-lane exist there for quite some time. But at some point in the future, as traffic increases, having that median in the center to restrict some of those left turns out of all of the driveways and the side streets provides that little higher level of traffic safety, and that's what we're going for. Probably be quite a ways down the road before that would happen, but that's something that we have identified for the corridor. This is simply what's out there today. 5 lanes, 12-foot lanes about, and people can turn out of that left side or that center left turn lane. There is a couple areas by the VA, the VA hospital, and then also as we get close to Sycamore where we don't have any development on one side of the road. So that really helps us as far as not having a bunch of driveways in those locations. It keeps traffic moving on the corridor. Again, this is just goes through the 6th lane at this point. We have, or we're not moving those options forward, primarily just due to the length of the corridor and the property impacts. We are not saying that 30, 40 years from now that may not come back and be a requirement. It's just not at the level of traffic that we're looking at now. We're going to keep moving along the corridor to Rice Street. Rice Street, this is an interchange that probably has one of the lower levels of traffic today. This intersection here just was signalized just a few years ago, finally met the warrants to do that. But with the increasing development that takes place on the northeast side of town, the increased development in the city of Brandon, all of the area around what will be the Veterans Parkway corridor, we have identified some strong growth along the Rice Street corridor. And so to manage that growth, we have some additional lanes that we need. We're looking at from Bonson Avenue through the interchange that will go to a 6-lane section. Outside of that at this point would go back down to 2 lanes in each direction. This would simply be a retrofit of the current interchange, so it'd be a tremendous amount of turn lane additions is what it amounts to. Additional right turn lanes and additional left turn lanes. One of the concerns that we have is at some level under this design, that intersection gets so large it starts to break down. And so for that reason, we looked at maybe one more option that was a little more out of the box than some of the ones we've looked at, was a realignment of Cleveland Avenue that would take us over to Bonson. And what we do is we take a high level ramp and we don't have that opposing traffic on the south side. We take a high level Cleveland Avenue and we don't really have that opposing traffic on the north side. And so those intersections we can manage better, getting them on and off Rice Street, and that option works very well to manage our traffic. The biggest thing is it's a significant amount more road to construct, and we have some issues to work with private landowners. And so both of them handle traffic. This one maybe would handle traffic for a little farther out in the future than the other one. On the corridor itself, as we start going towards the downtown area, certainly as we revitalize and keep developing downtown and have a conscious effort to try to get Rice Street pushed over to Russell Street, we want to preserve this corridor as another east-west route. And so implementing the median due to all of these blocks that connect, that's just something that we'd like to do over time to try to increase the safety along the corridor. Right now we have a significant amount of locations where people can take rights and lefts and all of the things on and off the corridor, and by implementing the median at that location, we start reducing some of those conflict points. Again, here's the evaluation of results. Looking at the traffic operation and the safety, what we're carrying forward, they all do a very good job of managing that. Now we're getting over to Benson Road, which is kind of our last sub-study to the north. A little history on this interchange. As we come at 229 in the morning, this volume is significantly high. It's probably one of the highest ramp volumes in the city right now. And we're running between 1,600 and 1,700 vehicles in an hour up this ramp and then into the commercial park that exists. And so our concern is, as development takes place on the east side and we need to provide more time at the signal to manage that traffic, that the interchange is going to have some significant problems. And so to manage that, we looked at placing a loop ramp, a dual loop ramp that would take traffic. If you wanted to go on Benson Road to the west, you'd simply come off of this ramp. You'd have a free movement that would go onto Benson Road. And we have a dual ramp that would come off. We have 2 lanes in the through direction. And so we'd actually carry 4 lanes over to Potsdam, 3 lanes over to Lewis, and then we'd go back to 2 lanes. And that's what we need to manage that amount of traffic on that loop ramp. The other obstacle that we have is if we have that much traffic in the morning, we have a similar amount that wants to come home at night. And so we get this very long queue that exists in that outside lane on Benson Road coming back in the evening. And so we've looked at a couple different options. This one looks at doing a dual right turn, which will manage our queuing on the corridor. The second option simply looked at making it a free right turn and lengthening the ramp out. And so a couple different options that we have there. The other option that fits inside of our right-of-way, which is very nice, is a diverging diamond interchange. The complexity of this is a little more than normal. We actually have to have 3 left turn lanes coming off the ramp terminal. We'd carry 4 lanes across the structure, drop 1 at Potsdam and 1 at Lewis, just like in the other alternative. And so that's really the way that we can manage the traffic capacity that we need. And so, again, both of those manage the traffic. The loop ramp option would probably carry out and manage it a little longer in time. And so what does this all equate to? It equates to a lot of projects over the next 20 to 30 years. And so this is our priority matrix that we've developed. And I can honestly tell you that it's our best shot at the order of the improvements. And by no means does that indicate this is how exactly it'll go. There's a lot of money that needs to be spent, but I'll briefly indicate what we feel at this point. And so 26th Street, if any of you guys have any desire on that interchange, we studied that outside of this corridor. That was completed when we started it. That interchange project is in design, and so that will be constructed a few years from now. But we do have a board on that here tonight if you want to look at that. The next interchanges that we would look at construction would be 10th Street and Benson Road. The order of those is to be determined, but those are the ones that showed kind of the highest level of need when we put all of our numbers together. Benson Road, simply from a perspective of we have less land to buy, maybe be a little easier project to push forward than 10th Street, because 10th Street has quite a few acquisitions. And so, but both of those are tiered similar in our scale. The next one would be Minnesota Avenue, and then close behind that would be Cliff Avenue. And so when we look at these improvements, each tier maybe represent 5 to 8 years difference. And so, you know, we're hoping that maybe the first 26th Street, that's about 2020 timeframe. The next ones could be in that 8 to 10 years after that, 12 years maybe. The next tier, maybe another 5 years out, and we get to those bottom tiers another 5 years. So we are telling you this is a 20 to 30 year plan. And so when you look at a couple $100 million plus, certainly the DOT and the city need to figure out how to fund that together in order for these improvements to move forward. And so that, like I said at the beginning, you're probably going to be a little frustrated if you come for some defined timelines, but that's really the best that we can do. What I can tell you is if you live on one of these corridors, I don't know, okay, I do have that. And so kind of our next, when we would engage you again along a corridor, the process to go from the studies we still need to complete to construction is about 5 to 6 years. So if you do live on a corridor and you are engaged, that probably means we're going to put you in the cycle to start working on a project. And so to do that, we'll have to go back, do some interchange modification reports, an environmental assessment, or some environmental document to the level that we need. We got to go through property acquisition, final design, and construction, which is about a 5 to 6 year cycle. So, but once it starts that momentum, you're probably in the system to see some improvements take place. Thanks everyone for coming. Sorry I got a little bit long-winded. Hopefully it was valuable time for you to spend with us tonight, and we appreciate it very much.